Hello there. The debate about the planned self-determination law in Scotland is escalating more and more these days. The British government had stopped the bill because it would fundamentally violate the equality guidelines throughout the UK. In the new draft law, people over the age of 16 should be able to have their gender changed in all documents without a therapeutic or other check. According to the British government, this would result in discrimination and the loss of shelters for women in terms of equality legislation. This led to demonstrations by the trans community in London last week outside British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's official residence at 10 Downing Street. The dispute also escalated between British MPs in Parliament. Tory MP Miriam Kate said in the UK House of Commons that the proposed changes will make it much easier for a predator to access children and change their sex with the aim of creating loopholes for access to children and exploiting women in particular. Lloyd Russell Moyle of the Labour Party was quite outraged by this. Gosh, that speech was probably one of the worst transphobic, mean-spirited speeches I've heard in a long time, he said there. He later apologized for his statements. Labour MP Rosie Duffield said she was shouted down by her male party colleagues and other MPs when she raised concerns about the bill's impact on gender spaces. The protection of monogamous spaces for the most vulnerable women is at stake, so why on earth are Labour colleagues going along with it? That's what Duffield said. Her Labour colleague Ben Bradshaw said that Duffield's statements were absolute nonsense. The heated argument continued across the parties. In Germany here too, the debates about the self-determination law planned for this year in the Federal Republic of Germany have been rekindled by the latest decisions in Great Britain. The newspaper Die Welt has meanwhile demanded that the debate about the planned law must now also begin in Germany and denied the statement by the Green trans politician Tessa Ganserer that everything had already been said on this subject. I don't believe that either. And the Taz interviewed the women's rights activist Maren Smith from the Organisation for Women Scotland in detail, who explained, among other things, that Scotland has had a good law that has existed since 2004, which is internationally exemplary, because the state combines the rights of transsexuals with the rights of all other citizens in it. The new law is made less for trans people with gender dysphoria, but today, however, it's mainly about people who identify as women temporarily or permanently, but do not want medical treatment and often do not make any attempt to appear as a woman, she said. Smith also considers the lowering of the age for a self-determination decision about a gender age change to 16 years to be problematic. In addition, the Scottish government even contradicts itself at one point, in her point of view. Children of this age are in search of identity. This is a completely normal maturing process among teenagers. At this age, they are not yet able to solve this search for identity well for themselves. When it comes to the issue of criminal responsibility, the Scottish government has put a lot of emphasis on new research into the maturation process of the human brain. But what was the result of that? It's only in their mid-20s that people can fully weigh the consequences. That's what Smith says. Smith raises the question of why the maturation process of young people is taken into account when it comes to criminal responsibility, but not when making decisions about their own gender. Here in Germany, the so-called Traffic Light Coalition is currently planning that in future young people from the age of 14 can change their civil status, whether with or, if necessary, without the consent of their parents or with the involvement of a family court, and that law is still controversial. Most recently, Justice Minister Marco Buschmann explained in an interview at the beginning of January that he had noticed the concerns about the Self-Determination Act in Germany and that there were delays in formulating the legal text. They have to regulate it properly, says Bushman. And yes, I agree with you, Marco, because that has to be properly worded. And there are concerns in Germany here as well about the current draft of that bill. And I do have my concerns too, although I'm a keen supporter of the LGBT community. But laws have to be really made with a view on everything. And I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.